Hi everyone, welcome to Birds of Geek, episode 12. I'm Amy, and with me we have Barry.
That's me. That's
me.
That's you. It's me. I'm in. Hello.
Yep. And we have Anthony.
Oh, that's me. That's me. Hello.
Talk about Storm of Thunder. Jeez.
No, you did it better. It's okay, B.
Thanks, Aim. I know it did anyway, but do you know what I mean? It's good to know.
This month is where we all review the same comics. And this month we've got two comics that we're going to be reviewing, Adler and Bang, both issue 1. So both jumping on points, brand new series. So Adler was first, and that's Anthony.
So this is Adler issue 1 from Titan Comics, written by Lavie Tidhar. The artist and colorist was Paul McCaffrey, and the letterer, Simon Bowland. For Sherlock, there was only ever one woman. Now Irene Adler is on a mission to take down Moriarty. It's a league of extraordinary gentlewomen, as Adler teams up with a host of famous female faces from science, history and literature to defeat the greatest criminal mastermind of all time.
So, issue 1. It starts off and you've got kind of like, Ant said a posh word for it in the emails and I can't remember. It's got a page where it lays out each character.
It's got a cast of characters, or a dramatis personae, if you will.
That's the word. That's the posh word.
That's the posh word.
It's Latin. It's not particularly posh.
It's posh.
It is where I grew up.
It is where I grew up.
It wasn't in ancient Rome.
Yeah, all right, Hogwarts, boy. Jesus.
Don't insult Hogwarts. They don't speak Latin.
Yeah.
Also, they would never let me in.
No chance.
There are tests and everything.
Right. Anyway. There is a cast of characters which lays out the main characters, and we've got Irene Adler, Lavie Havisham, Jane, Aisha, Annie, and Carmilla. And in the start, you don't see a lot of all of them. There's only like 2 pages with a couple of the characters in. I should point out that Jane is Jane Eyre, and I really liked the characters. I thought it was a good mix. I liked the way Adler was played, and Jane and Miss Havisham. I thought they were all really interesting and really, really different. And how you would expect them to be wasn't how they were.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job with the introductions, especially of those 3, because they were sort of the 3 main focus of the issue. And they were all distinct and interesting from the get-go, really. And
it didn't just jump straight in with Adler. It worked up to her introduction. So in a way, it kind of felt a little bit like a Sherlock Holmes story because it led up to her introduction.
I'll tell you what it reminded me of was Rose, the first episode of Doctor Who, because it's almost like told from Jane's perspective. Certainly like the first half of the issue, and you cannot, she's your in to the world sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I quite liked. And again, with, similar to Dr. Watson in Sherlock Holmes. So I quite like what they're doing with having Jane Eyre as like
as the Watson character,
as the Watson character, almost literally as the issue sort of plays out.
Yeah.
Also, as well, I mean, before I get into my overall thoughts, but also as well, the whole sequence where Jane meets Irene is pretty much identical to the way they did it in Sherlock Holmes. I can't speak for the book so much, but certainly in the TV show.
Yeah.
With the idea of she's just come back from war and she's a doctor, obviously. Well, she's a doctor or a nurse? Nurse.
Nah.
And this idea that she needs lodgings and she ends up sharing a house or a flat with Irene Adler is the same. It's the same thing that happened with Dr. Watson. And to begin with, I was a bit kind of, it's just going to hit the same story beats as Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. But I think knowing it's a bit of an alternate history type thing, I think actually after that scene I was fine because that felt very similar to a lot of Sherlock Holmes stuff that I've seen where they meet for the first time. Sherlock does the whole kind of, or in this case, Irene does the whole kind of, you're a doctor, you're blah, 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 blah. And I was kind of reading it, I was enjoying it, but I'm kind of like, why are you just taking the Sherlock stuff and doing it here? Why not do it in a slightly different way? And actually, when that conversation ended, I can't remember exactly what Jane says, but she does this wicked put down, and Irene is like, "Yep, she'll do," and that I liked enough because it was saying that this is going to be something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I quite like the fact that clearly Holmes and Watson exist in this alternate universe.
Yeah.
But they're just sort of referenced as opposed to whether or not they drop into it, I don't know.
I actually love the fact that it's like Moriarty's dropped a line about him almost setting up the case that Holmes is on.
Which is Hound of the Baskervilles, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that aside, that opening aside, like I said, it was just a bit too close for me. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Because I don't really read a lot of the novels where these characters come from, I didn't know who they were. I'm aware of Jane Eyre, as in...
You know the name.
I know the name, that's it. Lady Havisham, I know the name, that's it. In fact, as I looked down the cast of characters and I saw Annie, I didn't even click that I'm assuming it's Annie, as in Annie from like the musical Annie.
But yeah, no, it is Annie from the musical, yeah.
Right.
The other two, I don't know who they are.
I don't know who they are.
However, I'm intrigued to find out more about them because they were kind of just teased at towards the end of the issue.
Yeah.
And I do love a good warrior woman, so I'm hoping good things will come out of this because one's an assassin and one's a queen of the Amazons. So all good.
Can I just point out the last panel though? I'm not going to spoil it, but the character at the end of the last panel.
Yeah, I was expecting you to mention that.
Yeah. I will. Spoiler, it's not Ada Lovelace, but it is my other big idol.
Did you squee?
Yes, I squeed.
I thought you might.
I went to kick you like I usually do when we're both sat on the sofa, but you weren't there, so I just kicked her.
To be fair, if you obviously, most people probably haven't got the press release, but the person mentioned in the final panel is actually in the press release.
Is she?
Yeah, because they kind of list out some of the iconic figures that she comes into contact with. Yeah, so she is listed. And I thought that's cool. That character I knew. So I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah.
I did review a book about her, so.
Yeah. I didn't know from because I've only skimmed over the sort of press release. I just saw, I love Pulp Adventure. I've always liked Irene Adler anyway, as the only woman that kind of, the only person that really sort of beat Holmes. And kind of got away with it. So I liked the idea of it anyway. I didn't know they were going down a kind of League of Extraordinary, in this case, gentlewomen. But I like it even more because that's the way they're going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the cast that, just looking at the list of characters and, as I say, historical characters that's going to be coming up in it, I think there's a lot of scope here and a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And based on this first issue, I think it's going to hit a lot of that. And yeah, I loved it. Just to talk about the art quickly, the art's really nice in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the line art, but also what I really loved was the fact that you get a sense of the environments from the color palettes as well. It's like you've kind of got there's like a dusty feel to the South African bit. It's in the Boer War at the beginning, and then when you're in London, it does seem dark and smoggy at night and stuff.
Yeah.
I just love that attention to detail that colorists bring that you wouldn't get without, Yeah.
I really, really like the art too. I like the character design. Not overly keen on Irene Adler's costume, but other than that, I liked everything else.
What I do like as well is at the beginning, it's got a character design gallery, so you can see like a few of the different costumes and costume ideas. Which I think we'll sort of see going through, and some of those look fantastic. So
yeah,
I think this is going to be a good one. I think,
and I think certainly gives you an idea that this is going to be a globe-trotting story. At least I hope it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you've both said. The art I thought was glorious in this. Really, really. I know it sounds a bit of a stupid thing to say, but really, really colourful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Really bright, really colourful. And in this day and age of digital comics where 95% of what I read is digital, probably more than that, this is one of those ones where I don't know how many issues this is going to be. I don't know if this is an ongoing or if it's going to be 6 issues and done. But this is the sort of one that, provided it pans out the way I hope it does, that I would consider, like, if they ever brought this out as a hardback, picking up.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I think I'll be probably picking it up as a trade anyway, either way. But yeah, a really nice sort of like oversized hardback would be really good on the shelf.
The character of Alicia. Is it Alicia?
Aisha.
Is, I think it was a book by H. Rider Haggard, who did King Solomon's Mines.
Okay, cool.
She's subtitled The History of Adventure. Yeah, and it's where they sort of go and they find a race of people. That's problematic. Basically ruled over by a queen named Aisha, who reigns as the all-powerful she, or she who must be obeyed. That's where that phrase comes from.
Surely that's any woman.
But yeah, certainly my wife. But it was also a film. I vaguely remember it being a film way back in the day, which I think starred Ursula Andress. Oh yeah, I was right. Yes. It starred Ursula Andress. Also had Peter Cushing in it as well. Yeah.
So Camilla's a vampire. So I'm wondering if because the only vampire fiction from like that era would have been Dracula.
Is she a vampire? I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it says right at the start.
Oh yeah, and vampire to boot. Yeah, Aisha's right hand woman and vampire. I didn't even pick up on that. Okay, cool.
In some ways, that's almost a shame. They're almost in the gallery and stuff in the first issue. They're almost giving away a little too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of something I would have liked to have discovered as it got, because I certainly wouldn't have got that from this issue. And I feel like that's something I would have liked to have discovered as it went on.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, she predates Dracula by 1872 Gothic novella.
Ooh.
So there we go.
Ooh. See, I'm even more interested in this now.
So this issue was released on the 5th of February. So it's been out for a week or so now. I would definitely recommend picking it up.
Yeah. Will you wait for the trade, or will you pick it up as it comes out?
What I might probably wind up doing is, because I'm interested enough to pick it up monthly before that, although I do have a few things to read on Comixology at the moment, but I'll probably get it digitally and then also get the trade, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I think I'm going to add this to my, even though I know I'll probably get sent these to review, I'll probably still add it via Comixology, because I always find that this kind of story, like pulp adventure, lends itself really well to like the monthly format.
Yeah, it's like a serial, isn't it? It's almost a perfect representation of those, like, you know, little pre-movie serials and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's what I'll be doing, and then, you know, depending on how I feel when it's finished, that'll be whether or not I want to pick it up as a actual trade. Cool.
Excellent.
That off then.
Okay then.
Shall we move on?
Yep. Let's move a bit further forward in time and move on to Bang.
Shall I crack on with the synopsis?
Give us a synopsified stuff.
This one's not out yet.
So it's released on the 19th, so next Wednesday.
Right, so Bang 1, which which is written by Matt Kindt, artist Wilfredo Torres, letterer Piekos, colorist Nayoung Kim, and Matt Kindt was a cover artist. So the blurb, gosh, it's long. A best of the best secret agent with memories he couldn't possibly possess. A mystery writer in her 60s who spends her retirement solving crimes. A man of action with mysterious drugs that keep him ahead of a constant string of targeted disasters. A seemingly omnipotent terrorist organizations that might be behind it all. And they're all connected to one man, a science fiction author with more information than seems possible, whose books may hold the key to either saving reality or destroying it. So, yeah, Bang.
So this issue doesn't feature most of those characters.
No,
just quite a few of them.
They are referenced though.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are referenced.
Okay. I don't know if we've already mentioned this, but so issue 1 of this is out in a week's time from when we're recording. But the first printing of it is already sold out.
Yeah.
And they've done a second printing, which the order's closed for 2 days ago. So, yeah, I think that...
We're recording this on the 12th and it's released on the 19th.
Oh, you and your actual days.
Well, you know, it just might be handy for people. Because if we were, say, a week from a date when we recorded and it takes, like, 3 days for you to edit or something, then people aren't going to know when it's out.
This is true.
Okay. Kids, have we finished?
Yes, we finished, Dad.
Okay. Let's crack on. And
I loved it. Hands up. This is. I loved it. Without kind of going into too much, it was there was enough of a Bond pastiche in there. There's sci-fi stuff thrown in. There's basically a pre-title sequence. There's an organization with an awesome name, brilliant art. You know, it's just, what is there for me to not like about it? Nothing. It's almost it's like reaching into my brain and pulling out lots of little elements and just merging them together into one big ball and throwing it at some Bristol board and coming out with something that's just pretty much designed for me.
So, given that I recommended both of these titles to you, specifically to you, and specifically Adler was for Amy, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't really my cup of tea. I like my modern day stuff just a bit less James Bondy and a bit more sci-fi-y. I loved the artwork. I loved the way it looked. I preferred Adler, and if I was picking, well, I have picked one, I would choose to carry on reading Adler. I like the author, and I'd probably read your copies of it if you continue, just because I want to see a bit more about the author, because it's very clear, even by his name, that he's based on a real author who's one of my favourite sci-fi writers. And can I say the author? Because if I say the name, that's on like what the pre-sequence says. So the author's name in this is Philip K. Verve, and 3/4 of that name are based on Philip K. Dick, who was also a sci-fi writer. He was someone who took a lot of drugs, was very suspicious of the government, and had a lot of theories about the government. So I can kind of see where they've got that from, and I'd just be interested to see what happens with his character. I'm not too bothered about the spy stuff. It's just not really my cup of tea.
That's fair enough. I'll tell you one of the things I really loved about this, because I loved all of it, but one of the things I really loved was just some of the small details in the artwork. Like, there's just one panel, and it's something that always annoys me in comics, especially where if you see someone using a weapon or a bow and arrow and they're just holding it wrong, and there's just one panel where he's got an MP5 raised and he's holding it in the correct position, both his eyes are open, it's the correct distance away from his eye. It's just like, I'm in. You could have just shown me that panel and I'd be like, I need to read that, because artist knows his shit.
I quite like the panel in kind of like the pre-credits thing, where the characters got blood splattered on them.
Yeah.
It's only slight, but it's the fact that the detail's there, that the blood splatter's there when it would be there, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. And like I said, I love the artwork. It's beautiful. And, you know, it's really, really good, especially the way it tells. Story isn't my type of story.
So, can I chime in now?
Yeah.
So, first off, I've read this twice. The first time I read it, I wasn't with Amy, as in like because I love spy stuff. I love James Bond stuff. I would also say there's an element of a series of films back in the day that I used to watch as a kid they're all about a character called Jason Flint. So you had like our man Flint, and then Flint, and this kind of felt more like, certainly I know the easier one to go to is Bond, but it kind of felt a bit like our man Flint, because that was so over the top. But I read it through once, and I thought, yeah, it was all right, and kind of almost forgot about it a bit. Then I read it again before we started recording, and I was like, and it was a major thing that I completely missed. So when I read it the first time around, I was like, well, that's come out of nowhere. And then when I read it the second time, I was like, oh, okay. Second time around, absolutely loved it. And I loved it because I truly believe, maybe not in the next issue, but you're going to get to like an issue 3 or something like that, and this is going to be a completely different story.
Yeah.
This is not going to be just a run-of-the-mill spy James Bondy with a few twists and turns. I think this is going to go all over the shop, and I think this will. Not that I'm saying to you. I mean, you must read this, but I think this will fill the science fiction quota. That's just the vibe I got from where it ends up.
Yeah, I think the spy stuff just makes an interesting backdrop for it, because you've got the organisations present to reference in amongst your craziness that's going to come.
Yeah. I think that's going to be like the spine that sort of runs through it. The characters that you said weren't in this story are all they are referenced. I won't say how they're referenced.
Yeah, but they're all referenced.
But they're all referenced. So that alone tells me kind of where this is going to go in terms of who, that we're going to see these other characters, and that there's actually a bigger thing going on. That's just going to be madness. And I think this is one of these stories where I almost want to wait for the trade.
Yes.
Because I felt like when I got to the end of it, this is the sort of one that someone could pick up and they could go either way. I loved it, absolutely loved it. But I thought other people could pick up and go, nah, this isn't for me, because they've got an idea of where they think it's going to go. But I have no idea where it's going to go, other than I think it's going to be like all over the place.
Yeah, I think for me it's like, so where we said with Adler, that's like a serial. This is like a movie, and I want to watch it in one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think given how potentially mind-bending this could be, I thought this is one of these ones which could be just run for like 30, 40 issues. Do you get what I mean? And it's one of those ones where people will sort of go, I can't believe it started there, look where it ended up.
Yeah.
I thought the art was gorgeous on it. Clear, it's smooth, again, it's colourful. The action flows really well when it does. There is a sort of Bond credit sequence which ends in a way I wasn't expecting, which I think kind of then threw me and made me miss the twist. So yes, bang, one, loved it. Yeah. It was banging.
I've got to say just quick, and it's not really a spoiler, but there's a panel with like a lot of different agents' faces on it, and it's quite clearly one of them's quite clearly Sean Connery and one's Roger Moore.
Yeah.
and it's just, I thought it was quite nicely done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't even spotted that.
Yeah, I just thought the likenesses with it, because I spotted Roger Moore straight away, and then it's like, yeah, there's Sean, but in the corner. Loved it.
And also, it reminded me of, I don't know if either of you would have read these, but way back in the day when they used to do the old Nick Fury comics, when it was like sort of black and white, and I think the art was done by Steranko.
I've read a few of them.
Yeah, and they're just, even as a kid, I was thinking I should be drinking something when I'm reading this, because it was so or taking something, because it was so psychedelic. And that's what this kind of reminded me of. It kind of reminded me of like that sort of really old school Nick Fury, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would really like to see where this comic is in 4 or 5 issues time.
Yes.
And I think it's at that time that I may turn around to Amy and say, you need to come back to this, or don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think that needs to happen. You two go ahead and read, and then tell me if it turns into more my thing. You both know me well enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be on top of this. Although, as I say, I think again, it's one I will, as long as I carry on enjoying it, put that proviso on there. But at the moment, I can't see me not. I'll be getting it in trade, but again, I'll probably Comixology it, which is, I mean, I don't do single issues normally anyway, so it has to be Comixology for me, that. But yeah, it's certainly one I will pick up in both formats, I imagine, because I'm that kind of idiot.
Not an idiot.
Well, right then.
Right,
That's done.
I have now seen the other characters, by the way. It didn't register the first time through.
Oh, there we go.
See, it's a gift that keeps giving.
But do you know what it reminds me of? Remember when we did, what was that other one, like the sci-fi one that was set in like Victorian times or Edwardian times or somewhere?
I know which one you mean.
And I hadn't read the blurb. Again, I didn't read the blurb for this, so I just jumped in. And it was like, so it's like when I got to like the last bits where the author's brought in, and I'm like, this is getting even better. I don't know how I can take it, because I'd not read the blurb. So it was like, it started off as the spy thing, then it was like the Bond pastiche with kind of like bringing in some of the weird fan theories that are out there about James Bond. And then it kind of just kept getting, for me, better and better. And I think because I hadn't read the blurb, it kind of had more impact in many ways, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard. It's hard to do a synopsis or a blurb for a comic series, especially because there's often not much to say about an individual issue. But if you talk about the series as a whole, you kind of need to, but then you might be giving too much away, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a hard balance, I think.
Yeah, I also found compared to Adler, compared to Adler, actually, I found this a very quick read.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not to say that, for me, I enjoyed them both kind of equally, but yeah, I found there was a lot more dialogue. So obviously, it took me longer. So whether it is the argument is getting more bang for your buck, I don't know. Whereas I found that bang, I sort of whizzed through really quickly, and it almost felt like it was 10 pages, and it wasn't. But I do think a reread of it, you do gain a little bit more.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that's 2 thumbs up from me for both of them that we've reviewed today.
Are we doing thumbs up and stuff now?
No, I'm just saying that because I liked everything, and I'm just saying it. You can say what you want.
Well, loved Adler. Bang was all right. Barry, you seem to like both.
I loved both of these. They get a resounding 4 out of 5 rich tea biscuits each.
Nice.
If I was rating things on a rich tea biscuit scale, which I'm not. So that was
Maybe we should.
Should we though?
Well, then I think people are getting into arguments about whether rich tea biscuits are the best or not.
Well, they're not, but moving on.
You don't get a say. You don't like sweet things.
Anyway, I feel this is an argument to be taken off air as to whether or not we're going to use rich tea biscuits as a reviewing mechanism in future.
Which we're not.
I might declare that we have to.
Yeah.
This is my show.
I was going to say it's not our show. It's not our show, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Fair point. I just thought logic might prevail.
We just rent seats. That's it.
Yeah, you're just keeping places warm.
Yeah, that's it. We can be replaced at a drop of a hat.
Well, no, not you, Barry, because but
yeah, I know.
You can be replaced, Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony.
And we'll leave it at that, I think.
Yeah.
So,
you still there, Anthony?
Why do you say it like you're calling a cat?
Anthony. Anthony. Anthony.
Come get your nibbles.
Kibbles, Anthony.
bit of ham.
I'm never going to call it Anthony in front of you again.
Yeah. It's just a gift that keeps giving. Right. Time to round us up, Amy.
Yep. So thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you again at some point. And if you want us, you can find us on Twitter at Geek Syndicate, or there is a Facebook group kicking around, but I don't know if that's general entry or it's requests.
It's requests, but requests, and I will open the doors to the Geek Nirvana.
Request and use the password Anthony is a kitty.
That could go wrong.
Let it play out.
But yeah, or request and join us.
You can email us at thegeeks@geeksyndicate.co.uk, and then I will pass on said correspondence to the others. Yep. So we will see you again. Thanks for listening. Bye. Later.
Cheerio.